As the heir of the Carter family, Emily had always lived by strict rules, every movement accounted for, every minute reported. And for most of our 2-year marriage, she had stuck to those principles like gospel. Until one day she disappeared for nearly 48 hours with Ryan Kim, her so-called distant cousin who had just flown back from Japan. That was the moment I knew this man wasn't just anyone to her. And me? I'm James Walker, eldest son of the Walker family, top-tier elite in Riverdale. I was raised with power, pride, and a name that makes boardrooms go silent. I never lacked admirers, and I definitely didn't marry because I had to. I married because I thought Emily Carter, of all people, would never betray me. So when the Carter estate's fleet of luxury sedans pulled into the front courtyard and I heard laughing before the doors even opened, something snapped. Standing with my head down, watching their shadows spill out under the warm afternoon sun, I heard Emily's voice, light and casual, as she handed off her headphones to a staffer and completely ignored my gaze. I turned and locked eyes with her, expecting something. A nod. A guilty look. Anything. But she didn't flinch. Instead, Ryan Kim smiled at me, extended a hand like he belonged there, and said, "Mr. Walker, it's an honor. I just got back to the States. Please give me your guidance." Guidance? That word rolled off his tongue like he was mocking me. I stared him down cold. "You're standing on Carter property. You should know the rules. And what Emily means to this family isn't something I need to explain to you." My tone wiped the grin off his face instantly. He panicked, stumbling out an apology, and glanced over at Emily like a puppy begging its owner for help. She frowned but didn't say a word in my defense. Instead, she calmly said, "James, I was just showing Ryan around Riverdale. He just got back and has nowhere to stay for now. Grandma asked me to take care of him. Have the housekeeper prepare a guest room." She pulled off her sunglasses, combed her long hair over her shoulder like nothing had happened, and walked past me as if I were invisible. That night, I told her straight up I wanted Ryan gone. She blinked at me like I'd spoken a foreign language. "James, he's just a relative. He's family. You know that." I was about to lay down an ultimatum, but instead, I found Ryan in the hallway outside our bedroom. "You already have everything," he whispered, blocking my path. "Can't you give Emily back to me?" He looked like a different person under the dim hallway light. Smug. Brazen. And worse, confident. He tugged at his collar, subtly revealing faint red marks on his neck. "Don't blame me, then," he muttered and walked away. At first, I didn't fully understand what he meant. But the next morning, when I was woken up by a servant and looked down from the staircase, what I saw nearly sent me spiraling. Emily, my wife, the icy, untouchable queen of the Carter family, was kneeling beside Ryan on the living room carpet, gently massaging his ankle with warm safflower oil like he was made of glass. She didn't even do that for me. "Mr. Walker, you're up," Ryan said sheepishly, his voice sickeningly sweet. "I'm sorry. I insisted on learning horseback riding this morning. Hurricane just threw me off. Luckily, Emily caught me, or it would have been worse." He looked up at her with those stupid, grateful eyes. I gripped the railing so hard my knuckles turned white. Hurricane, our family's most prized horse, never let strangers ride it. Not even me. "James, I've got some meetings. Can you help Ryan with breakfast?" Emily said without missing a beat. That did it. I stormed downstairs, face stone cold. "He's not my responsibility," I snapped. Silence spread through the room like poison gas. The maid slipped away. Emily narrowed her eyes. "What's this attitude again?" she said, her voice clipped. "Mr. Walker, I really didn't mean," Ryan interjected, all fake guilt and watery eyes. "Just shut up and get out," I growled. Emily froze. Then, for the first time in our marriage, she raised her voice at me in front of someone else. "James Walker. Don't be petty." She helped Ryan to his feet and led him away, but not before he turned back, smirking, and mouthed 2 words to me, "You lose." I collapsed onto the couch, laughing out of pure rage. 2 years ago, she was the one who insisted on marrying me. Now look at us, cracks widening like fault lines under pressure. I didn't hesitate. On my way to Carter Corporation, I called our legal counsel. Draft the divorce and resignation agreements. Effective immediately. Mr. Walker, does the madam know? She doesn't need to. Keep it between us. I hung up and stared at the Carter Corp. Headquarters looming ahead. The same place I had joined, leaving behind my own family's company, just to be near Emily. Back then, it felt like a sacrifice for love. Now, it felt like a joke. A gilded cage. I walked into the building like it was the last time. Because it was. What's mine isn't meant to be touched by anyone else. And what's been touched? It's trash. In my office, as I sorted the last of my files, someone knocked. Olivia Lee, Emily's childhood friend, stepped in with a sly grin. "James, I heard some rumors. Is it true there's another man?" Her eyes glinted. "You don't seem like someone who'd fight over a woman. So why not consider me next?" She leaned close, her voice dripping with seduction. I tilted my head, amused. "Trying to get on the backup list, Olivia?" "Better than not making the list at all," she said, eyes locked on mine. I laughed. For the first time in days, something actually made me laugh. But before anything else could happen, someone yanked me back by the arm. Emily. Her face stormy. "Olivia. That's enough." She dragged me into the office, slammed the door, and hissed, "Stay away from her." I raised an eyebrow. "Why?" "Because," she snapped, then paused, her voice dropping. "Because of Ryan." She sank onto the couch, hands trembling. "He's just a relative. His parents died overseas. He's alone. What do you expect me to do? Abandon him?" She tugged me to sit beside her. "Do you think I'm the kind of woman who would betray her husband over some cheap flirtation?" I opened my mouth to reply, but a knock cut me off. The assistant stepped in with a package. "This just arrived. Marked for Mr. Louis. Assumed it was you." Emily smiled and opened the box casually. But when she saw what was inside, lace lingerie, bright red, her face flushed for the first time in years. "Badado, you like this?" she asked, trying to play it off, voice shaky. My jaw clenched. "I didn't send that." "How many Mr. Liu's do you know?" She froze. I picked up the card, hands trembling. "Sister Emily, please accept my gift. Ryan." My vision went red. "So what's next? Sharing a bed? Will that be explained away too?" I slammed the card against her chest. She stammered, "It's not what you think, really." I turned toward the window. "You let him ride Hurricane. You took him skydiving, the very thing you forbid me from doing because it was too dangerous. You didn't come home that night. Where were you?" Behind me, she fumbled for words. "He said he was upset." "I didn't want him alone. Cut the crap, Emily." I spun around. I saw the marks. On his neck. She looked terrified. "We didn't do anything." Then she hugged me from behind, desperate and trembling. For a moment, I almost gave in. Almost. Then the door burst open. Sister Emily, Ryan stood frozen in place, seeing us together. Emily pulled away like she'd been caught cheating, which, maybe, she had. The moment shattered. The cold truth settled in. The trust was gone. And I wasn't sure it had ever been real to begin with. Emily picked up the box from the floor and shoved it into Ryan's arms with a coldness I'd never seen from her before, not even toward enemies, let alone someone she claimed was family. "This is yours," she said without emotion, like he was a stranger off the street. Ryan looked completely lost, like someone had yanked the ground from under him. Sister Emily, you misunderstood. I used Mr. Lou's name, but I didn't mean to cause any trouble. His voice cracked as he spoke, clutching the box like it could save him. It was my fault. Please don't misunderstand her. I stared at him, dead in the eyes, and said with a voice like ice, Ryan, spare me the drama. If you're going to play games, go back to the kiddie table. I took a step forward, watching him shrink like a kicked dog. Save your cheap stunts for someone who hasn't seen better. Emily quickly stepped between us like she was shielding a puppy from a wolf. James, let it go. It was just a misunderstanding. I'll handle it. She turned to Ryan and waved him off. Go. Now. Ryan hesitated, his expression like someone slapped him across the face in public, then muttered, I understand, and limped out of the office with his pride in tatters. I didn't miss how she reached down and grabbed the stupid box of lingerie like it was radioactive waste. When the door finally clicked shut, I looked at her and asked flatly, Emily, do you know what I hate more than betrayal? She didn't respond. Just stood there like she was waiting for me to walk out. It's pretending, I continued, pretending everything's fine when it's clearly falling apart. She blinked, her usual unreadable eyes showing a flicker of something fear. Guilt? She whispered, James please, but I cut her off. You know what happened to my parents. My mom cheated, my dad found out, and then spent the rest of his life in a wheelchair. You know that. You stood there with me when we visited his hospital bed, and you said you'd never do that to me. Her face paled. I didn't what? I snapped. Didn't cheat yet? Didn't sleep with him yet? You disappeared for a full night, came back smelling like hotel sheets, and I'm supposed to believe nothing happened. I was trembling now, not with weakness, but with the exhaustion of holding everything in for too long. She walked over slowly, like she was approaching a wild animal, and said, that night Ryan said he missed his parents. He wasn't used to the climate. I didn't want to leave him alone. I took him to a hotel because I didn't want to bring him home and make you upset. I didn't expect, she hesitated, I didn't expect him to. I don't even remember everything clearly. I thought he was you. I swear, James. That night was a mistake. I froze. My heart stopped. My breath caught like a rock in my throat. You thought he was me? I asked, voice barely above a whisper. You got confused and mistook him for your husband. I laughed. I actually laughed, because what else could I do in that moment? Do you know how pathetic that sounds? Emily stepped forward again, tears finally pooling in her eyes, and said, Please, James. I swear it was only that once. It was a mistake. I never meant for it to happen. Her voice cracked as she pulled out her phone, opened her contacts, and blocked Ryan in front of me. She even called someone, probably her assistant, and barked, Book him a one-way ticket to Montreal. Tonight. I don't care how much it costs. Make sure he leaves the country. Then she turned to me and added, James, I'll never let him come near you again. Just can you forgive me? Just once. I looked at her, this woman who once ruled boardrooms and bent empires with a look, now standing in front of me like a beggar, shaking with fear and regret. And I felt nothing. Absolutely nothing. Not joy, not vengeance, not even pity. That was the moment I realized Emily Carter no longer had power over me. Do you know what my mother did after she was caught? I said quietly. She cried. She knelt. She begged. My dad forgave her. And 2 weeks later, her lover showed up with a 2-year-old boy calling her mom. That's right. The kid was born a year before me. My mom was already cheating before I was even conceived. Emily's face went pale. She opened her mouth, then closed it again. So no, I said. I don't forgive. I don't forget. When I saw you let Ryan ride Hurricane, I knew this marriage was over. I gave you a second chance after that. And you used it to justify him again. To make excuses. And now you're standing here hoping to get one more. Her mouth opened and closed, words failing her. You think of your brother when you see him? I laughed bitterly. Don't insult your brother's memory like that. Don't use him as an excuse for sleeping with another man. Emily flinched like I slapped her. She didn't speak. Her fingers trembled. Her eyes filled, but no tears fell. The car pulled up outside the office. I didn't say another word. I turned and left. James, she called out softly behind me. Let's not drag this to court, please. I didn't look back. Then sign the papers, I said over my shoulder. Peacefully. That night, it rained like hell. I stayed home, alone, staring out the window while lightning split the sky like judgment. Bahwang texted me. Bro, Emily's at your door. She's soaked and not moving. I didn't move. Didn't answer. 5 minutes later, still here. This woman's going to catch pneumonia. I sighed. Grabbed an umbrella. Opened the door. And there she was, Emily Carter, the Queen of Riverdale, standing like a drowned ghost on my doorstep. Black blazer soaked, hair matted, red eyes pleading. James, she said, and knelt on the ground in the mud. You said your dad forgave your mom after she knelt. I'm kneeling too. Please, forgive me. Just once. She pulled out a folder. Inside was a property transfer agreement, every asset under her name, including Carter Corp shares, transferred to me unconditionally. If I ever betray you again, she said, I'll walk away with nothing. Just please don't leave me. Her voice cracked, her hands trembling as she held the folder like an offering. I looked down at her, then up at the pouring sky. Why are you doing this, Emily? I asked quietly. This marriage is broken. You're clinging to ashes. She didn't respond. Just bowed her head lower. Her tears blended with the rain. I turned around and walked inside, leaving her kneeling in the storm. Behind me, I heard her whisper, I'm sorry, James. Later that night, my legal team confirmed she'd signed everything. She even gave me everything voluntarily, no fight, no negotiation. I stared at the number on the document. Astronomical. And I smiled. Who would say no to a fortune dropped on their lap? Still, there was no satisfaction. Just silence. Weeks passed. Lin Yue moved in. Her belly started to show. On the day she gave birth, Grandma Carter came to visit. She cradled my daughter and said, James, Grandma will always be your grandma. Blood doesn't lie. I nodded, holding back tears. We named her Shirue Walker. I just wanted her to be happy. Maybe that's what broke the curse hanging over the Walker family for decades. On Shirue's first birthday, I saw Emily again. She had changed. Softer. Quieter. She handed me a small purse. I had it made. A blessing charm for her safety. I accepted it with a polite thank you. Her eyes, though, were filled with something heavier, regret that wouldn't go away. She looked at Shirue with a faint smile. Is Lin good to you? She's wonderful, I said, and it was the truth. Emily nodded. That's good. As she turned to leave, I felt nothing. No pain. No longing. Just peace. And that was enough for me. I thought that would be the end of it, Emily giving up the marriage, the company, and all the emotional leverage she had built over the years. I thought she'd vanish like a bad dream, and I'd move on with my life, but I underestimated how tangled we really were. Our divorce might have been signed, but because our lives were so deeply tied together legally, financially, socially, things didn't just snap clean. And the worst part? Emily never truly wanted to let go. She made that painfully clear during the legal limbo that followed. For weeks, every time I thought the case was about to settle, she'd find some excuse to delay it. Mediation. Assets reevaluation. Emotional distress filings. Nonsense, all of it. And then came the day of her grandmother's 80th birthday. I should have skipped it, but Grandma Carter had always been kind to me, like the grandmother I never had, and I couldn't bring myself to ignore the invite. That morning, Emily called from a new number, her 20th burner phone in a month. I blocked it without even blinking. I knew what she was going to say: "James, let's not make a scene at the party," or "Please don't embarrass Grandma." But when I stepped outside with the gift box in hand, there she was waiting by my car like a perfectly rehearsed scene from a drama. "James," she said, dressed in a modest beige coat, her eyes calm but pleading, "can we just get through today without any tension? At least for Grandma's sake." I didn't bother to answer. I got in the car, rolled down the window, and said, "Then don't get in. I don't need a ride-along reminder of everything I've walked away from." Her face cracked just a little. "Fine," she said, her voice brittle. "But once today's over, you need to sign the final settlement. I'm not dragging this any longer." I didn't respond. She knew damn well that it was her stalling the process, not me. When we got to the Carter estate, the atmosphere was festive: lanterns, gold decorations, staff scurrying around like it was Lunar New Year, not a birthday party. But as soon as I stepped inside, I could feel eyes watching me. Whispers. Murmurs. And then him. Ryan Kim. Standing right there like nothing had happened, wearing a new tailored suit and his usual spineless smile. "Mr. Walker," he greeted me politely, trying way too hard to act innocent. I ignored him completely. Emily gave me a stiff glance and walked past him without saying a word, but I noticed how her fingers clenched tightly around her purse. Whatever piece she tried to display, her body language betrayed her. The banquet hall was already set. I was seated beside Grandma Carter, while across from me sat an empty chair, one I knew well. It was reserved for Emily's deceased brother, a spot no one dared touch. Except Ryan Kim. The idiot actually sat down in it. Dead silence fell across the room. Even the servers froze. Everyone knew he'd just desecrated the one sacred space in the Carter household. "Get out," Grandma Carter snapped, her voice sharper than I'd ever heard it. "Now." Ryan jolted up like lightning struck him. I watched him fumble, eyes darting to Emily for help. She didn't even look at him. "Go sit at the back," she said coldly. He looked like he was about to cry. He shuffled to the back corner, completely humiliated. I leaned back in my chair, arms crossed, savoring every second. If he had any delusions about being part of this world, they died that minute. After the first course was served, I stood up and presented Grandma with my gift, a handwritten scroll I'd spent weeks preparing. "A longevity poem written by your grandson-in-law," I said with a calm smile. "Thoughts last longer than treasures." Her face lit up like I'd just handed her the world. "James, you always knew how to touch this old woman's heart," she said. But as I sat back down, I glanced toward Ryan. The hatred in his eyes was no longer subtle, it was burning, raw, bitter. It was the face of a man who realized the world was too high for him to reach. Later, in the bathroom, I caught him watching me through the mirror, standing frozen near the sinks like he was about to confront me. "Are you proud of yourself?" he finally said. "You walk around like you own everyone, like you're better than the rest of us." I turned slowly to face him, my expression deadpan. "That's because I am," I replied without flinching. "You know what I have that you never will. Bloodline. Class. Power. Money. And most of all, Emily's past. You're nothing but a detour, a bad decision she regrets every night." His fists clenched at his sides, but he didn't swing. "Coward. I've heard of you, James Walker," he muttered bitterly. "Even overseas. I hated your name before I ever saw your face." "Good," I said with a smirk. "Then my reputation's doing its job." As I walked out, I threw one last shot over my shoulder. "And don't worry, Ryan. Even if you beg on your knees, you'll never wear my last name." On the ride back, Emily was unusually quiet. She finally broke the silence with, "Whose is it?" Her voice was low, trembling. The baby, whose is it? I didn't answer immediately. I didn't need to. She already knew. 3 months ago, you were in Europe. That was the last time, she murmured, more to herself than to me. It has nothing to do with you anymore, I said flatly. We're divorced. But she grabbed my arm, her nails digging into my skin. I haven't agreed to it yet, she snapped. I looked at her like she'd lost her mind. That's your problem. Don't pretend you're the victim here. It's pathetic. Her grip loosened, and she turned away, whispering, Ryan and I, it only happened that one time. He wasn't feeling well. I didn't want to bring him home. I didn't know what was in that drink. I thought he was you. Her voice cracked. It was a mistake. A stupid, awful mistake. Then she did something that caught me off guard. She deleted every trace of him on her phone right in front of me, then ordered her assistant to book him a flight to Canada and never let him return. I swear, James, he's gone. Please forgive me. Just once. But as I stared at her, soaked in guilt and desperation, I realized something terrifying. I didn't even hate her anymore. I didn't care. It was like watching a movie about someone else's life. Do you know what forgiveness looks like, Emily? I asked quietly. It looks like pain. Like someone crawling back after they've been shattered. I watched my father forgive my mother and lose everything. I'm not him. I don't forget. I don't give third chances. She sat beside me, hollow, like all her strength had bled out. I just saw my brother in him, she whispered. That's all. I shook my head. Don't use your dead brother to justify cheating. That's not grief. That's manipulation. Her hands trembled, and her face turned pale. The car rolled to a stop. I opened the door, paused, then looked back at her one last time. Let's end this like adults, Emily. Let's walk away before we both become monsters. The rain poured harder the next day, like even the sky wanted to wash the lingering bitterness off my skin, but all it did was soak the silence. I stayed home, shut off my phone, ignored the world, and tried to convince myself that I was already free, that everything with Emily Carter was behind me. But then Bahuang messaged me again with a video. Emily, standing alone in the storm at my front gate, her black blazer clinging to her like a second skin, her hair plastered to her face, her eyes bloodshot and fixed on the door that I refused to open. Bro, she's still out there, he wrote. You seriously gonna let her catch pneumonia? I stared at the screen for a long minute, debating whether I even owed her that kind of decency. After another hour, when she still hadn't moved, I finally grabbed an umbrella and stepped out. I didn't cover her. I just stood 3 steps away and asked coldly, what are you doing? She looked up slowly, trembling from head to toe, her lips blue from the cold. James, she said hoarsely, you told me once that your father forgave your mother after she got on her knees. So here I am. And she dropped to her knees, right there in the mud, like everything she once prided herself on meant nothing. I swear, I'll never make the same mistake again. I'll sign over everything to Yumi name, my assets, Carter Corporation shares everything. If I ever betray you again, I'll walk away with nothing. She took out a folder, hands shaking, and held it out to me like a peace offering to a god. Take it, she begged, take it and know I'm serious. Her voice cracked, and I hated how small she looked. This wasn't the Emily Carter who crushed CEOs with one look. This was a woman completely stripped down, raw and desperate, and for a second, I almost felt something. Almost. Why are you doing this? I asked, my voice barely above the rain. You and I were already over. She didn't answer. She just bowed her head and stayed there, like my silence was punishment enough. And maybe it was. I left her kneeling there and walked back inside, listening as the storm drowned out her final whisper, I'm sorry, James. When I got back to my desk, the legal team had emailed me the finalized divorce confirmation. Emily had not only signed everything without a fight, but had transferred every marital asset to me voluntarily. She gave you everything, my lawyer said in disbelief. Even the Carter stake. You want us to counter that? I stared at the number-san astronomical fortune by any standard and laughed dryly. Who complains about free money? I said. Still, the victory felt hollow. Months passed. Lin Yue moved in, her pregnancy smooth and drama-free. She never pried, never demanded answers about Emily, just stayed close, warm, real. On the day she gave birth, Grandma Carter came to the hospital with tears in her eyes. She held my daughter Ji Xiu in her wrinkled hands like the child was her redemption, not mine. You're still family, James, she said softly, brushing the baby's hair. You'll always be family. I nodded, not trusting myself to speak. For the first time in years, I felt peace. No wars. No expectations. Just the soft breathing of my newborn daughter in my arms. And then, like fate refusing to let go, I saw Emily again at Shiryue's first birthday party. She showed up late, alone, quiet. She looked different. Her sharp edges were dulled, the iron in her spine replaced with something softer. How are you? She asked, offering a tiny purse embroidered with blessings for Shiryue. I made it myself. It's for her protection. I took it with a nod. Thanks. We stood there for a moment, not as husband and wife, not even as exes, but as two people who had shared something once. Is Lin treating you well? She asked quietly. Better than I probably deserve, I replied truthfully. Emily nodded, eyes shimmering but calm. That's good. And then she turned and walked away, disappearing into the crowd. I watched her go and felt nothing. No longing. No ache. Just clarity. Whatever we'd had, it had died a long time ago, and now I was standing in the aftermath, alive and whole. I should have known that peace wouldn't last. 2 weeks later, a scandal broke on a gossip forum, anonymous posts detailing an alleged affair, hotel reservations, and leaked photos of Emily and Ryan. It was obviously old news, but the timing was strategic, and the source suspicious. Lin Yue brought it to me without saying a word, just dropped the tablet in front of me and walked off. The pictures were blurry, and the captions overly dramatic, probably Ryan's last act of revenge before vanishing to Canada. I didn't react. I didn't need to. Emily, however, did. She showed up at my company's lobby in a trench coat and heels, completely ignoring security. I need to talk to you, she said, voice steely. Not here. I motioned her into the elevator, not because I owed her privacy but because I didn't want a public scene. When we got to my office, she pulled out a file of her own background investigations, timestamps, even phone records. Ryan posted that, she said. He used an alias and a VPN, but I traced it. He's trying to drag me down with him, and by extension, you. I leaned back in my chair and asked, why do you care? She blinked. Because you have a daughter now. And I have a name to protect. Whether we like it or not, people still associate us. You mean they associate you with me, I corrected, voice sharp. I've moved on, Emily. You're the one chasing ghosts. She stiffened. So that's it? You're just going to pretend none of it mattered? I stood up and walked to the window. It did matter. Once. But now I have a daughter who matters more. And a woman who doesn't make me question my worth. Emily said nothing for a long time. Then, just as she was about to leave, she turned and asked, if you could go back, would you still marry me? I didn't even hesitate. No, that answer hung in the air like thunder. She nodded once, tightly, and walked out. I didn't see her again for a while. Life settled. Shiryue learned to walk. Lin and I talked about taking her to France. The Carter name faded into the background. But one night, I came home and found a letter on my doorstep, handwritten, not typed. It was from Emily. No legal threats. No manipulation. Just a simple apology. For everything. For Ryan. For hurting me. For not being the wife I deserved. It ended with, you were right. I did love you, but I loved myself more. I only realized that after I lost both. I folded the letter and threw it into the fireplace. I wasn't angry. I wasn't vindicated. I was just done. Let the past burn. I had a future now, and I wasn't about to let anyone dim it again. Just when I thought the final thread between us had burned to ash, Emily Carter showed up again, not in my office, not in court, but at the Carter family's old estate, and not as my ex-wife, but as the head of the family's corporate board. It was another acquisition meeting, nothing out of the ordinary on paper, but everyone knew what was really at stake: her position, her pride, and her last chance to salvage whatever phase she had left within her own family. I hadn't planned to be there. In fact, I had removed myself from most Carter business after the divorce, but I still had a small controlling interest left over from the settlement, and that meant I still got quarterly reports, legal notices, and the occasional inside tip. That morning, one such tip came through: an anonymous message from an old contact inside the Carter legal team: you might want to check the back garden surveillance. Something's happening. I almost deleted it. Almost. But something in me paused. And when I opened the attached clip, what I saw made my blood boil. Ryan Kim, yes, the same parasite who had supposedly left for Canada, was being cornered by one of Emily's younger cousins in the back garden. The girl was holding a stick, swinging wildly, spitting accusations about seduction, shame, and him trying to climb the social ladder by taking advantage of Sister Emily. I didn't feel a shred of sympathy for him. He tried to play with fire and got burned. But what got me was the fact that Emily didn't know he was back. She had told me herself, ordered his deportation, cut ties, deleted everything. And yet here he was, bruised, humiliated, and still shameless enough to claim innocence. I didn't seduce her, he shouted. It's a misunderstanding. We heard the call, the girl screamed back. You gave her a damn bathrobe and said she was yours. I watched as she lifted the stick again, ready to strike harder, but then Emily's voice cut through the chaos like a blade. That's enough. She marched into frame, grabbed the stick mid-swing, and yanked it away. This is not how we do things. The girl stammered, but he said, I heard, Emily said coldly, and I'll deal with it. But not like this. She bent down, helped Ryan up like she still felt obligated, and led him to the car. That should have been it. But what followed next on the footage made my hands curl into fists. As they sat in the car, Ryan, bruised and trying to look pitiful, started his act again. I already moved out. Why is James still targeting me? My parents are dead, I have no one. Why won't he let me live in peace? And that's when I saw it: Emily's hands on the steering wheel tightening, her gaze going unfocused, like a memory was flooding in that she didn't invite. And then, out of nowhere, she lit a cigarette, something I had never seen her do before, and stared ahead like she was a million miles away. It hit me then. Ryan had reminded her of something or someone from years ago. Probably her brother. The one who died in that terrorist attack abroad while protecting her. I remembered the story vaguely: how her family of 4 had been ambushed overseas, how only she and her parents made it out alive, and how her brother's sacrifice had haunted her ever since. So now, what? She projected her guilt onto Ryan. Protected him because she saw a ghost. I didn't know whether to laugh or punch something. Later that day, she stormed into my condo like she still had the right, fingerprint lock and all. I forgot I had never changed the access. She walked in, covered in bruises and carrying anger like a shield. Did you send those people? She snapped. I looked up from the wine glass in my hand, completely unfazed. What people? At the old house. My cousin. The attack. Don't play dumb. You think I care enough to orchestrate a playground brawl? I asked, sipping slowly. If I wanted Ryan gone, you wouldn't even find his body. Her jaw clenched. You're unbelievable. You're still defending him? I asked. After everything? He's just a kid caught in a war he doesn't understand, she muttered. You don't know what he's been through. Don't give me that, I said, standing now, eyes locked on hers. I know exactly what he's been through. Because you told me. You sent him away. You deleted his number. And yet somehow he's still here. So who brought him back? She froze. It wasn't me. Then you've lost control, I said sharply. And if you've lost control, you're dangerous. Not just to yourself, but to everyone around you. She walked toward me, furious. You think I'm dangerous? You're the one who leaks gossip posts. You're the one who whispers to board members. You've been sabotaging me from the shadows. Sabotaging? I laughed. Emily, I'm not even trying. If I was, you'd already be bankrupt. That shut her up. The silence between us was so thick I could hear both our breathing. Then she said something that shattered it all. James, if you hurt him I'll take you down, even if I burn with you. That stopped me cold. I stared at her like I didn't recognize her. So that's what it's come to, I said quietly. You destroy the G group for him? If it comes to that, yes, she said, trembling but firm. I shook my head slowly. This marriage was a joke. And I must have been the punchline. I turned and walked away, not because I was scared, but because I didn't trust myself to stay calm. James, she called out behind me, her voice cracking. Don't make this uglier than it has to be. You already did, I said without looking back. The next morning, I had the locks changed. I filed the final legal motions. The media tried to pick up the pieces of our failed fairy tale, spinning stories about betrayal, passion, money. Let them talk. I didn't care anymore. Lin Yue, now fully showing, kept her distance from it all, never commenting, never pushing. She just smiled, cooked for me, held my hand when I was silent, and let me breathe. Sometimes I wondered if that was what love was supposed to feel like, not fireworks, not drama, but peace. Then came the custody clause. Emily filed a petition claiming joint moral guardianship of Shiyu. On what basis, I had no idea. Maybe guilt. Maybe desperation. My lawyer laughed. She doesn't stand a chance, he said. No judge will give her standing after what she signed. Let her file, I said calmly. Let her try. I didn't need revenge. I didn't even want to hurt her anymore. I just wanted her to finally, completely, let go. The morning she officially lost custody, Emily Carter didn't cry, didn't scream, didn't even show up in court. She sent her assistant with a one-sentence note, please protect Shiryu well. That was it. After all the threats, all the accusations, all the emotional theatrics, she folded with a whisper. I should have felt victorious. I should have walked out of that courtroom with my head high, proud of finally closing the last open wound between us. But all I felt was tired. Not just physically, but soul-deep weary, like I'd been carrying the weight of a broken marriage, a broken trust, and a broken version of myself for far too long. Lin Yue met me at the courthouse steps, holding a white umbrella that somehow made her look even softer, more real. It's done, I said simply. She didn't smile. She just nodded and squeezed my hand. That was the thing about Yue, she never asked for more than I was ready to give. She never pushed, never pressed. She just stayed. That evening, I sat alone in Shiryue's nursery while she slept, listening to the quiet hum of her breathing, and I finally let myself feel the full weight of what I'd walked away from. Emily had been my beginning in many ways. My first real love. My first marriage. My first fall. But maybe that's what she was meant to be, a storm I had to survive in order to appreciate the calm. Months passed. Shiryue started babbling words, laughing at the dog, crawling faster than we could keep up. I started expanding Walker Enterprises again, something I had put on hold during the Carter era, and for once, I was building it for Menet, for love, not for revenge, just because I could. I wasn't avoiding Emily at this point. I just didn't think about her. Not until that night in early spring when my phone lit up with an unknown number and a message that only said, urgent. Come to the Carter estate. Grandma. I hadn't been there in over a year. The last time was that birthday banquet where Ryan Kim humiliated himself beyond repair. But when the matriarch of the Carter family summons you, you show up. When I arrived, the house was eerily quiet. No staff. No Ryan. No noise. Just Grandma Carter sitting on the back patio, wrapped in a shawl, sipping black tea like she was waiting for a final chapter to be written. "She's leaving," she said without looking at me. "Emily's moving abroad. France. Some medical fellowship program. You're the only one who doesn't know, apparently." I said nothing. "She asked me not to tell you," she continued, "but I'm old, and frankly, I'm tired of watching you two pretend like strangers." I finally sat across from her, my eyes scanning the garden that once held so many arguments, secrets, and history. "So what do you want me to do?" I asked. "Stop her." "No," she said sharply. "I want you to be at peace with it. I want you to know she's finally letting go. And you should too." That night I drove home in silence, the city lights flickering like memories I hadn't asked for. And when I got there, standing at the base of my building, was Emily herself, a scarf wrapped around her neck, a small suitcase beside her feet. "You really were going to leave without saying goodbye," I said, stepping out of the car. She smiled weakly. "I thought it would be easier that way." "Easier for who?" "For both of us. You think running to another continent makes this clean?" She shrugged. "I'm not running. I'm starting over. Somewhere I'm not James Walker's ex-wife. Somewhere I'm just me." I looked at her, the sharp edges gone, her face softer, her eyes tired but clear. "And what about your empire?" "Sold it," she said. "All of it. Even the name. Carter Corp." I blinked. "Gone." "Gone," she nodded. "The money's in a trust for Shirue. I don't want anything from it anymore. Not power, not pride, not even legacy." "And what do you want now?" I asked, not even sure why I needed to hear it. She looked up at me and whispered, "Peace." We stood there for a moment in the quiet, two ghosts of a marriage that had already been buried, and I realized then that there was nothing left to fight over. Nothing left to fix. Only something to accept. She picked up her suitcase, adjusted the scarf, and said, "Take care of her. Of yourself. I know you hate me. You probably always will. But I want you to know I don't hate you. Not even a little." She turned to leave, but then paused and pulled something from her pocket, a tiny photo of Shirue smiling, taken from a distance. "She looks like you," Emily said, placing it in my hand. "That's a good thing." And just like that, she walked away. No more threats. No more crying in the rain. No more last-ditch ultimatums. Just silence. And it was beautiful. The next morning, I woke up to a house full of laughter. Shirue had pulled open a drawer and dumped a pile of socks on the dog, who barked like it was the greatest game in the world. Lin Yue walked in with a tray of fresh toast and orange juice, and for the first time in years, I didn't feel haunted. I felt home. I framed the photo Emily gave me and placed it on Shirue's dresser, not because I still loved her, but because I wanted my daughter to know the truth. That once, her mother and I tried. That once, we believed in something. But believing doesn't always make it last. A year later, on a random spring morning, I received a letter from France. No return address. No signature. Just a single sheet of paper that said, "I'm okay. She really is the best part of both of us." I read it once, then folded it and tucked it into my desk drawer. Life isn't about having a perfect ending. Sometimes it's just about learning how to move forward without breaking. And for the first time in a long time, I was moving without rage, without regret, without looking back. Just forward.